Okay, let me set the stage. It was the 18th of December, 2023. Galactus vs. Unicron came out. It was a good episode, and it closed off Death Battle Season 10. A season that is a banger, after banger, after banger, after not you, after banger, after banger, after banger. You know, so overall, a fantastic season. And Season 11 was gonna be amazing, like, nothing could go wrong. But then Warner Bros. Shut down Rooster Teeth, which was both expected, as Rooster Teeth wasn't the greatest company to work at for multiple reasons, but at the same time unexpected because, wait a sec, it was expected. Warner Brothers, of course, why did I think it was unexpected? Although Death Battle wasn't as bad as how Rooster Teeth was handling, well, the rest of the company. That's not to say Death Battle had its own controversy, but Death Battle was nowhere as bad as Rooster Teeth was. They did, however, ghost Courage's official VA. Not exactly a good move. However, on the 10th of May, a video was uploaded where Ben, Chad, Sam, and Austin said that Chad got a new cat. Very important information. He's part of the Assassin's Creed, like, it makes sense. Oh, and they were talking about the Death Battle itself. They were looking into potential options on what to do, but didn't want to rush things. We wouldn't get information for 2 months on what would be going on. And those 2 months, well, they were weird. Like, there was no Death Battle from May to the end of July. We wouldn't know exactly what would happen to Death Battle, aside from there's something going on. But we would get an answer. A few Death Battle members posted a picture of Green. Not the exact answer I was expecting. Then Ben posted these numbers. People were speculating on what these numbers could mean. Could mean Hulu. I find that unlikely. Other people were speculating Kickstarter, but they'd be right about that. On the 25th of July, Death Battle announced it was back. It was now owned by Ben, Chad, Sam, and Austin. But it needed the Death Battle community's help to get the show back and running. 5 days later, they started a Kickstarter. Their main goal was to get $75,000 to finish up the first 4 episodes. They were already in production, but, you remember what I said earlier. There were other stretch goals for future episodes and rewards. And, well...
Oh my god.
Oh no, guys, it's about to happen.
74.5.
Oh my god. Are you kidding me? It literally just launched. Oh my god!
We did
there
it!
it is!
We have officially funded in
Like 25 minutes?
30 minutes. We are driving to be.
Yeah, we're so back. In only 21 minutes, Death Battle was fully funded for 4 episodes. In just a day, they got $487,000. Within that first week, they got $600,000. And by the end of their campaign, they got $7,400,000, which was not only enough for 1 year of Death Battle, but even 2 years of Death Battle. But now that the first 4 episodes of independent Death Battle came out, why don't we review them and see what I think. And since this will be my first Death Battle ranking video, I might as well just clarify how I'll be ranking stuff here, because that is probably more important right now. To quickly explain, the highest rank an episode can get is around an S rank. It could go a little higher, but that depends. Otherwise, from S it goes down to A, B, C, D, E, and then finally F, with F being the lowest tier possible. Although there is one extra tier. But no real episode has gone to that extra tier. Now that I've covered everything, let's get started with Death Battle 24. Starting with...
Chief, I found Parker.
Where you been? Looking for you all morning. Why don't you pay your phone bill? Mad scientist goes berserk and we don't have pictures.
I heard Spider-Man was there.
Omni-man VS Bardock. I got a few things to say here. For one, this released on the 3rd of October, and was one of the 2 episodes revealed on the Death Battle Kickstarter. Kinda made sense to go with this one. To be frank, Omni-man vs. Homelander made a good amount of sense. I mean, everyone that wanted to see Homelander, well, die. But people wanted to see Omni-Man go up against a much more powerful opponent. You know, an actual opponent. And Bardock was one of the more popular requests. Omni-man vs. Bardock made a good bit of sense, and was the first episode to start Death Battle 24, instead of what would be the next episode. So continuing from Goku vs. Superman and Galactus vs. Unicron, a little quick preview of the fight shows up before the episode actually begins. But continuing from Rick vs. Doctor and Goku vs. Superman, they no longer give these little fancy little titles to these characters. If anything, it's kind of different now. Boomstick simply goes,
Omni-man VS Bardock.
This continues for a good bit of Death Battle 24, not to mention Wiz doesn't even mention the theme of the matchup, which kinda sucks because it was kind of interesting to have Wizard try and explain the theme of the matchup in a unique way. But, alright, I guess the best place to start is, well, Omni-Man's analysis. Considering last time Omni-Man was on Death Battle, it only covered Season 1 because that's as far as Invincible Season 1 the show came to, and didn't want to spoil too much in the comics. But honestly, it's a bit better. I do think it covers Omni-Man a bit better, but it still does that thing back in like his first episode where they only cover certain things that's already been on the show, as this analysis only covers stuff from Season 1 and Season 2 of Invincible, but doesn't cover too much of the comics. I swear Omni-Man better not be in a third episode. But that kinda sucks, but I mean, still not entirely terrible. I think the analysis is pretty good. Gotta be honest, the editing's pretty good. Kind of my favorite edit in this episode was that part when Wizard was saying,
quote, a couple galaxies away, give or take. So a minimum of 2 galaxies.
I kind of just like the little echo and it zooms out. Honestly, that's kind of cool. Pretty cool. It should be noted though that every episode here in Death Battle 24, the editing is amazing, so no duh. Pretty much, Omni-Man's analysis is fine. I think it does a good job here and there, but it feels like it should cover more. On the other hand, Bardock. Bardock's analysis, in my opinion, I like it a lot more. I mean, consider this much, I'm not a big Dragon Ball fan. It's probably not easy to tell, but I'm not exactly big into it. But surprisingly, I was more invested in Bardock's analysis. Like, he was kind of like one of the few Dragon Ball characters I would say looks pretty cool. And I would say his storyline sounded really interesting when they were talking about it. And that's not even mentioned how they talk about his powers and abilities, which, honestly, this is kind of amazing that this analysis actually gets me interested in Bardock, which is a Dragon Ball character. Not gonna lie, it's kind of actually impressive. As well as impressive with that little edit. Just, I don't know, like just seeing Bardock just using the card, then break Batman's back, and then kill that one character from Danganronpa. You know, kinda just could say, pretty cool. But yeah, I would say Bardock's analysis is much better than Omni-Man's, and I really like it at the end. Gotta be honest, I think it was just the way it ends. Like, it ends there, but then they talk a bit about the little non-canon stuff about Bardock and how even in a way they kind of say that it could have happened in canon. I'll be honest, pretty cool. I really do like how the analysis ends off. Just a way to end off a cool analysis. But what about that fight animation? Well, this fight animation was done entirely by Devil Artemis himself. Which, you know, pretty crazy, but I mean, we've seen what he's done before, so I bet he did a real great job here. I'm going to talk about a few of the scenes I like, but not all of them. I guess I could say that the fight does start off kind of good with Bardock going in to invade, well, the bug planet that's in Invincible, and then Omni-Man is there to stop him, and it's very clear at this point that the fight animation shows that this is Season 2 Omni-Man, not Season 1 Omni-Man, so pretty good. I guess my favorite scenes would include, like, Omni-Man quickly using Bardock's little Saiyan pod to distract him, which allows him to actually hit him. And it does lead nicely into the Great Ape scene, although that little part here where Omni-Man stomps on Bardock's arm does look kind of off, really. Does look kind of really off. And not to mention, okay, look, I mean, Omni-Man's model is not that bad, but could certainly be a bit better. Then again, the other option is Mortal Kombat 12 or Fortnite. I don't know which one to go for. But Bardock's model is pretty good, so that's fine. But anyway, the Great Ape though. This is actually the first time we ever see it in a fight though in Death Battle. It's been mentioned a few times, but not exactly by word. It's mostly been left to the analysis of sorts. Anyway, but this was the first time we ever see it on Death Battle, so it was actually kind of interesting just seeing how, even though it's a big ass ape, it was still able to keep up with Omni-Man and even outpace him a bit. I gotta say, I really kind of like that. It's even more interesting how Omni-Man kind of rips off Bardock's tail. Although it felt very weak, like it didn't take too much effort, like could have been a bit more. But it does. It does follow with Omni-Man actually using Bardock's tail and shit. Just like that is actually funny. That is just actually funny. And that's not even mentioning when it goes to the end of the fight, where Omni-Man brings Bardock to the end of this blue star. And just as Omni-Man is choking Bardock out, possibly killing him, Bardock says this.
No. My sons. Leave me. I won't let you take me from my world!
Now might be a good time to talk about the voice acting. Voicing Bardock is Cameron McCall. He does a good job voicing the character. Really, you have to say, he does a good Bardock voice from the material I've seen of Bardock. So I would say he does a good job. Honestly though, Omni-Man. Tom Schull comes back to play as Omni-Man, and he still does a good job. Honestly, well, if anything though, he's starting to sound a lot more like J.K. Simmons in this one. Like, I mean, he did sound really good back in Omni-Man vs. Homelander, but in this one, he just sounds like J.K. Simmons, if that makes any sense. And honestly, I do like the little sun exchange from two, like just
like my son, sticking his nose in places he's not ready for. My sons would kick his ass!
Honestly, that was a cute line. And, well, and aside from that, there's also, well, Omni-Man's line like,
am I supposed to be impressed?
And what I'll say at the end. But honestly, pretty good voice acting from both characters. Anyway, back to what I was saying. So after Bardock transforms into his Super Saiyan form, he then really starts kicking Omni-Man's ass super fast. But it doesn't really last that long. It goes on a little longer in the storyboards, which, might as well mention, in the storyboards, it kind of showed that Bardock's space pod kind of destroyed a few of those bug creatures. Hi, I'm someone who is not watching Invincible too much. As well though, in the storyboard, aside from how the Super Saiyan and Omni-Man clash lasts a little longer, there was also a scene in the storyboards where Omni-Man and Bardock headbutted each other. I honestly wish that was in the final episode, but I'm fine with it not being there. I guess it's cool that Omni-Man adapts to Bardock's Super Saiyan speed. Honestly, it's the last clash. Just the way that Omni-Man and Bardock go for one last clash, and as well with Omni-Man saying,
your time is up! Saiyan!
And within that clash, it destroys Bardock's right arm, and it kind of kills him. Or it doesn't, but it does depower him, but you know what I mean. And it does follow with Bardock falling down to the blue sun, but not before saying one last thing to Omni-Man.
You said Saiyan. Remember it.
I do like this downer ending as Omni-Man wipes his nose, realizing that he killed another father, and just one way to say as well that he might have also brought in a few more threats to come to his planet. Although Omni-Man saying fuck did seem kind of necessary. Whatever. And before talking about the conclusion, might as well talk about Solid State Invincible. It's a pretty good track. I mean, I like it. It's a good spin on Diabolical Invincible Me, since that track focused on Homelander and Omni-Man, and more specifically Omni-Man's eviler version back then. While Solid State Invincible, it uses similar lyrics, but makes it more heroic, and yet the characters question if they are worthy of redemption. Gotta say, pretty good track. Though, not the best of this season. Although what I can't defend is definitely the conclusion. Okay. Normally whenever I heard about this debate, I often heard that Omni-Man would take the speed advantage, but Bardock was going to get the power advantage. He would be much stronger. Yet, oddly, this was the opposite case here. Omni-Man had the strength advantage, but Bardock got the speed advantage instead. Bit weird, but what's more weirder is Bardock being comparable to King Vegeta, but who destroyed multiple planets, while Omni-Man destroyed one, and not to mention needed help with that. But yet they say it's uncertain about how equal effort these individuals did. I saw 2 other people help Omni-Man, destroy the planet, that was 3 people. I don't know, you might be highball in this one. And that's not to mention apparently that the planet got hit before, so that doesn't make it any better. Look, there have been people who have explained why, the verdict is just wrong, but in my opinion, I think the person who best explains what's wrong with the verdict is the YouTuber Hawk of Krypton. I think they did a good job explaining what is wrong with the verdict. Either way though, give him a watch. I'll be linking his Omni-Man vs. Bardock review. It better explains what's up with the verdict, and he does make good content. You should really check him out. But it's not exactly a good thing that the deathbattle team had to do a deathbattle cast to kind of explain their reasoning. I could see some of their other reasons, but definitely not the strength advantage. I would say overall that I think Omni-Man vs. Bardock isn't that bad of an episode. It's a pretty good way to start off. Aside from what the conclusion is, I would still say the episode's pretty good. With a bit of a tweak, I would say, to make Omni-man's analysis a bit more, adding in more of the stuff from the comics. I think this could have been much better. But as it stands, a B rank is not that bad. It's still pretty good. I'd still give it a watch. Still though, it's better than last place in this season. Speaking of which...
This Shoko Phantasma is justice. This is Requiem.
Okay, that's funny.
Oh, I don't know how much crap I'm gonna get for this. But yeah, my least favorite episode of Death Battle 24 is gonna be Joker vs. Gionro. It's not that I really intentionally had that. When I first watched the episode, I really did like it. But it's over time I was looking back at it that I was starting to see some issues that make it a bit worse. Now, don't get this wrong though. It's still a good episode, but it's not above Omni-man vs. Bardock for me though. I mean, it's obvious right away. Like, look how fast you can even see Joker. Not quite enough. Anyway, Boomstick and Wiz is back. That's great, but okay. Let's actually talk about the big thing. The analysis. I want to make this quick and clear for both analysis. Making it clear for both analysis. For one, I think they covered both Joker and Giorno's powers, abilities, and as well their feats and how their powers work. Okay? I'm making that clear. I think they covered those parts well enough. And the jokes, okay, they were the best part of this episode. Hands down. The metaverse one, it was funny and cursed. I like it. The social link joke, I mean, I just like how limited the animation was. That was a great cutaway gag. It's just perfect, and just the way Boomstick says,
"Later, loser, I'm gonna go do untested pharmaceuticals and date my teacher!"
And Wiz is just like,
wait, date your what?
10 out of 10. And as for Gionro, there's the funny Gorilla's Worst Nightmare joke that Liam joked about. You know, pretty good there. And there was the Jesus joke. I mean, it was kind of funny. I mean, I liked it. I don't know, it's just average. It's good though still, but nothing. I mean, nothing compares to just, like, Boomstick trying to explain how King Crimson's powers work against Golden Experience Requiem, and just how he just getting too complicated on it, and it just turned into a fucking Windows error message. And it's literally followed up by Wiz just saying, "That's right, Boomstick." Fucking 11 out of 10. That is just perfect. So you may be thinking, okay, but the analysis was good overall, but what's exactly the problem with the episode? I don't see what's wrong. You just entered my trap card. Notice how I did not mention their story coverage. Yeah, that's exactly the problem. You may have heard this a good bit from Giorno's side, and I'm gonna make this quick. I have not finished part 5. I did watch part 5, but that was a long time ago. I can't say much. I'm pretty sure there's other people who have definitely explained better what Giorno's story is and how it could have been done better in this episode. I can definitely, however, talk about Joker though, but I know what you're about to say. But Joker, he's a son protagonist. He has no personality whatsoever, and shh. You wanna hear that? It's the sound I like when you don't interrupt me. No. Even if Joker is a silent protagonist, I like to direct you to Chosen Undead versus The Last Dragonborn. You know, another episode written by Liam Swan, the writer of this episode. Even though in my opinion I think that Chosen Undead's analysis was done well and The Last Dragonborn focused on the memes, I think at best they still did a good job covering, you know, Dark Souls and, like, Skyrim. Like, they did a good job there. I think Liam did good fine there. I don't know if that sounded right, but you get the point. Why couldn't he do the same with Joker? Even if Joker doesn't have a personality, which he fucking does, the fight animation shows it.
He'll never see it coming. Checkmate.
And even if the fight animation didn't give Joker a personality, at least have the analysis cover the story of Persona 5. I mean, you mentioned Shido early on back in the analysis, but you didn't bring him back up. Why? Like, why bother mentioning him at all? Like, there's no reason, like, unless you bring him back up, because he kind of is important later on, you know? He's kind of important for Joker's story. Or, you know, just talk about the Phantom Thief's journey. You could have done that. But nope, both Joker and Giorno get nothing. But I could definitely talk about something I really did like about this episode. The fight animation. Alright, just starting off, I think these sprites are good. They are really good. Even though they're custom made, I gotta say, amazing sprite work done. This is amazing sprite work here. Don't get me wrong though, there's parts where it's jank, such as when Joker is swinging around at that certain point, or when Gionro is running around. I would more say specifically his second one when he's looking up towards Joker and he's just running normally, which doesn't look really right. His first one looks at least a bit better. Not perfect, but I would say at least looks like a run animation, you know? One nitpick I could add in here is, well, Joker's mask. Usually whenever he summons a persona, the mask kind of just disappears. Now I could excuse this, but it's still weird. I will say with Gionro, his character acting is weird. Let's more specifically talk about his voice. First off, I will say this much. Kieran Reagan, he does a good voice as Gionro, but it doesn't sound like Gionro. To be specific, he sounds a lot more like a Italian mobster.
Shoki Fantasma, my dreams aren't yours to take. This Shoko Fantasma is justice. This is Requiem. Impossible. A second stand.
In comparison to the clips I've seen of the English dub voice of Gionro,
Whatever I target can be turned into a living organism. But what the hell is gonna happen if I hit an actual person? I'll find out soon enough.
Time to come clean. Gionro Giovanna!
it doesn't exactly sound like Gionro. Really sounds like a villain. Again, that analysis could have done a little better job. But aside from direction, the only other issue I have is the Mudas. Not the first two. The first Mudas he does as Gionro, pretty good. It's the last one he does. It starts off really good, but then as it keeps going, it starts to lose its pitch. I have to wonder if Kieran was really losing breath at that point in time. Kieran Reagan, for what direction he got, he still did a good performance as Gionro. As for Kdin though, I honestly say he does a fantastic job actually. Sure, he's not fooling me as Sandra Mobus, but he gets close. You did a great job, Kdin.
Giorno Giovanna, your heart is twisted.
It is ours to take. His persona creates life. I've got to nullify that.
Jack Frost, Ice Age!
Alright, but let's actually talk about the fight mission. I will say yes, the intro kinda starts off a bit bad, like we don't have context as to why Joker's after Giorno Giovanna. What's the reason for changing his heart?
I don't really know.
The analysis could have, expanded upon it or give me a reason why. But as for the highlights of the fight mission, there are moments such as when Joker uses his gun to try and shoot, and then bees come out instead because Golden Experience, which then follows with Joker using Eggman and not pronouncing the multi version. Screw you, whoever decided to make that name. When it hits Golden Experience, it also hurts Gionro, and then when Gionro gets hit by it, that's extra damage. Though at least this weird moment where Arsene gets hit by Golden Experience, but then Joker's consciousness gets sped up. Even though from the clip I seen with Bucciarati versus Gionro, it seems clearly that Golden Experience hit Bucciarati, not his stand, and that's how his consciousness got supercharged. I'm not sure exactly what's happening here. Gionro takes an opportunity quickly to grab Joker and then have Golden Experience do a Muda rush. Well, a foot jab, but still. And quickly leads to a moment where Joker uses Alice, and Gionro gets confused on how Joker uses another stand. Which, that's kind of cool. Then Joker's grapple hook gets transformed into a snake, which Joker tries to shoot it, but then not only does the color change, but also Joker gets shot. Which then leads to this moment where Gionro explains his ability, and then the bees then come back and basically destroy Joker's gun. And Golden Experience sends him back, which then has Joker summon forth Ice Age. The movie Ice Age, which forces Gionro to use Golden Experience Requiem, which they don't exactly explain in the analysis that Giorno's life-giving ability is weak to ice, which could have been explained earlier. Then it leads to Return to Zero, and it leads to that Muda rush I talked about earlier that could have been a bit better, and then Joker dies. But not quite for long, as Joker gets the revive back by his confidants, and especially Mephiles the Dark when saying he'll kill him. Sure, Mephiles, you can kill him twice. I'm pretty sure you'll be able to do that. Then Joker says jackpot, and Golden Experience Requiem dies. The end. And before I talk about the conclusion, I might as well talk about the music. Requiem for a Thief, I see what you did there. At first it may sound like a Persona 5 track, but it does have a bit of JoJo influence into it. While it comes much more closer in the end of the fight, or at least how it progresses towards it, it does at least have it at the beginning, but it's mostly smaller. But the lyrics are sung by Shirsha, and she does a pretty good job. If anything, I think she sounds exactly kind of like, Lynn from, the actual singer of Persona 5. Not to mention Brandon Yates wrote for lyrics, and I see what you did there, Brandon. I see what you did there. As for the conclusion, I mean, it's well explained why Joker would actually take the victory. They even talked about Eyes of Heaven, and I see people going like, why use it? That's not part of the canon. Sir, this is a Wendy's. Golden Experience Requiem shows up in the last few episodes of JoJo's Bizarre Adventure Golden Wind. I think it's more than fair enough to use Eyes of Heaven to add more material into the mix, okay? Okay, otherwise, there's also the funny Joker versus Sweet Tooth reference. I don't know, I want to give this episode a higher rank. I want to give it higher, but I don't know, those analyses are the problem though. If they just explain both Joker and Gionro as characters and their stories better, then this would have been higher, but as it stands, really the fight and the conclusion is doing the heavy lifting. I mean, the analyses aren't bad, it's just, it could have been just so much better. As it stands, in my opinion, it gets the C rank. But the next 2 episodes, I think you already know my placement for those 2. Ten out of 10, 100, best episode. Alright. The triple S's. Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, this is the best episode of Death Battle 24. No questions asked. It's Bowser versus Eggman. Come on, you cannot tell me that this is the best episode so far in this new era of Death Battle. Just come on. And not to mention, this is a long requested matchup. I mean, both Eggman and Bowser have previously been on Death Battle, but Eggman's one was back in Season 1, and Bowser's was in Season 3. And last I remember, I don't think a lot of people liked Bowser vs. Ganon. Honestly, it made sense to bring these 2 back. And with the potential of an army battle, yeah, I think lots of people were really interested in seeing what Death Battle can cook up with this. But before we talk about this fight-imation, first we need to talk about the best analysis of Death Battle 24. And I'm not joking, I think both Eggman and Bowser's analysis are the best of Death Battle 24. In a way, while Eggman's was good back in 2011, it was a bit dated, and not to mention had that...
Dr. Eggman appears to suffer from a peculiar personality disorder that sent him through...
that part. For Bowser, it was mostly meh. I mean, there was that one joke I didn't like, but I mean, when watching that episode, I thought it was just fine. But more importantly, both analyses are improvement, but in a way, have a bit of similarity. I want to just note that how both Eggman and Bowser's kind of in a way start with Wiz, talking about the worlds of Mario and Sonic respectively. How Wiz talks about the Mushroom Kingdom being a happy and peaceful place, full of adventure, until Boomstick butts in and quickly says, "Ugh, that's boring. How about we get the King of Koopas to make it all cooler?" And with Wiz, when he's talking about, of course, Sonic's world, he's talking about how it's full of freedom, a world of endless possibilities. But he says that's disgusting. Eggman has a greater and grander vision. From there, it talks a bit about their origin stories. Not too much, but brief enough, and I think good enough because it starts focusing on their abilities, Eggman's tech knowledge, and Bowser's magic. That is me trying to do a Mr. Bean thing, and then they talk about their minions, which in a way represents their differences, showing how Eggman doesn't really have much loyalty to anyone, and as such, he has mostly his minions being loyal to him, and he doesn't really care too much about them. Only exceptions being, of course, Metal and Sage, and I guess Infinite, but who cares about Infinite? While on Bowser's side, it shows that not only do the minions care about him, but so does Bowser. Bowser cares about them as well. And even highlighting a bit more about Junior and the Koopalings, even though the Koopalings don't show up in the Filmation. Rip. And they do briefly talk about Kamek and Boo, but they did mention Kamek earlier in Bowser's origin. After that, then they talk about those unique little power-ups, and then close off their stories, in a way showing the difference. Eggman, he could help out the world and save it, but why would Eggman do that? That's not perfect for him. He wants to rule it. But with Bowser's, it shows off Bowser, the Koopa Army, Junior, and the Koopalings. They were getting along. They were becoming less like an army, but more like family. Showing that they are a threat, and that they can even conquer the world when they work together right. And I just love the part where both analyses end off this treaty part, where Eggman and Bowser are more or less on top of their heroes. There's even how Sonic's one is a reference towards, of course, Shadow the Hedgehog, a great video game, you should play it. And yeah, and there's these little animations here. Kinda reminds me of TJ Combo's one. So if you couldn't tell, I really do like these analyses. I mean, sure, maybe not going in depth as probably some other people, and I'm probably gonna be more in depth with the Fight-mation, but I don't know what to say. I mean, these analyses are just perfect. Compared to the last episode I talked about, Bowser vs. Eggman is able to show why Joker vs. Giorno's analysis kinda sucks, because if you remember what I said, Joker and Giorno's one just did nothing for the characters of Joker and Giorno, only just talking about their powers and abilities, while they cover those powers and abilities here. They also cover, you know, who Bowser and Eggman are, and their army. Something very important to get people invested in who these characters are, and maybe even, you know, try out Mario and Sonic, you know? I am definitely not checking out JoJo Part 5 now. I'm joking, I will probably get to it at some point, but okay. I diddled on long enough. Boy, that Fight-mation. That Fight-mation. Like, where do I even start? Bowser getting cocked. Okay, for you. The setup is just perfect, as no one does this reference. Many times Bowser has tried to force Peach to, well, marry him. But as well referenced in the second Sonic movie, you know, Operation Fish Cap. And then Eggman starts with the famous line,
I've come to make an announcement!
Okay, we're already off to a great start. And just as Bowser just takes off his windsuit and really question if Eggman's really gonna challenge him.
I am Dr. Eggman, your new genius overlord. Get a load of this!
This is just a great way to start the fight. Anyway, so once the army battle starts, it starts off with simple enough with Bowser commanding his army and using his forward smash, and even saving some Koopas. Eggman then tries to attack him with the Egg Dragoon, which Bowser then does the funny Hotel Mario face. But it didn't work out in Eggman's favor, as Bowser was able to basically destroy his Gatling gun, and then throw one of the spikes that Eggman threw at him earlier, and then show how much he's a chat he is by creating spikes from the earth, only to be revealed that it was a dummy. I just like how Bowser thinks he's so confident. He's like so confident saying like,
You call these toys an invasion force? Let's see Toads do better.
And he even punches one of the Eggman robots that's about to attack him. But then he just gets so confused the moment he hears Eggman still talking. And then I'm Not Weak shows up, kills a few enemies, and okay, you're looking cool, and then dies like a bitch. Okay, he doesn't die like a bitch. He's still alive, just questioning the meaning of life. But honestly, just this meme from King Boo. I love it. Perfect. With the Phantom Ruby out, Bowser and Eggman's minions gun for it. Two of the minions reach for it, but can't grab it. Wait a second. And then Chuck Norris quickly grabs the ruby and starts running, until Orba and Cuba grab it from Chuck Norris. But then the Elite Three quickly attacks them, with Metal Sonic now join the fight. And he starts stealing the show a lot, like, he's like the best part of this episode. I mean, in general the fight is so good, but like, he takes like a lot of it. And Metal Sonic keeps going, nothing is able to touch him whatsoever, even when Bowser tries to stop him. But then, Kamek uses the most forbidden mechanic in video game history, gambling. And rightfully so, Metal Sonic gets really pissed because, I can tell you anything, Chance Life fucking sucks. Anyway, after getting really pissed, he transforms into Neo Metal Sonic and injures Bowser very badly. And Junior is hesitating to use the black ink on his father, but just as the real Eggman finally shows up with Sage, preparing to finish up the fight, and with him actually complimenting Metal Sonic, Bowser
Showtime!
Fury Bowser comes out of the ink, and then quickly tries to punch Eggman, only for Metal Sonic to get him out of the way and use his shield. Then Bowser quickly tries to run straight at the Death Egg, with Eggman taking a slight step back, and as he ends the punch, only for Bowser to win the clash, and then try and send some spikes over, which Sage quickly protecting him with a barrier, and just as Bowser uses his down air,
I'll crush you!
As Super Neo starts decking him, Sage then throws a bunch of badniks over to Bowser, with Kamek protecting him, and then Metal Sonic simply quickly decks him in the face for doing Mario Party on him. And Bowser actually looks concerned for just a moment, which Mel quickly takes an opportunity for him, only for Junior to quickly get in the way and protect his father with, which ultimately does get him hurt in the process. And
how dare you keep your hands off my...
If there's anything I learned, you don't piss off a father. As Bowser just literally bitch slaps Metal, uses the Grand Star, which then kills Metal and then creates a black hole, which forces Eggman to go to drastic measures. as Eggman commands Sage to use the Death Egg ship to basically destroy the battlefield, with even Eggman and his minions fleeing, except for Orbot and Cubot. And as we see all the Koopa troops just frozen in place, except for that one guy who is praying to whatever god they have, Bowser, the chat he is, jumps straight into the laser's fire, grabs it. Even though it kills him in the end, he was willing to sacrifice his life for his minions. That shows true leadership there. With the battlefield destroyed, Eggman tries to get back on his Eggmobile, but Junior turns it into stone. With the Koopa Troop and the still alive Bowser cornering Eggman, Junior fires another shot, Eggman dodges and quickly commands Sage to fire the Death Egg again, only to his horror that the Death Egg has been transformed into a giant block, leaving Eggman concerned for Sage's safety. And with very little options left, Bowser then starts trying to inhale him, and it is kinda cute seeing Eggman try to escape, first using the jetpack, which fails immediately, then he tries to run like in the classic games, which almost was successful, but then he tries to kill Bowser, which doesn't work as Junior turns his gun into paper. Ironic, don't you think? Anyway, as Bowser said the classic line, "So long, they doctor," he then punches him, which turns them into sketches, 8-bit, and 16-bit, and then uses the Smash Bros. Hit animation, or hit sparks. Yeah, hit sparks, that's it. As then Eggman dies from turning into a block, giving Bowser and his minions plenty of 1-ups, which probably might even revive some of the dead allies. And there's even an aftermath scene. Okay, this is based. As it then shows Orbot and Cubot and Sage, well, applying for Bowser. With Orbot and Cubot, well, changing sides, and Sage having plans. And I just want to make clear, all of this animation, all this fight animation, was done by one person. One person with small bit of assistance, but more or less one person. Moro, the guy who did this Indie Cross series. The guy who only joined in Death Battle back in Season 10.
Oh my god, he's so goddamn cool!
And, just before I forget, game over. I mean, title aside, it is good, though it does kind of sound generic. But Brandon Yates, this is perfect. This is perfect. The best track again in this season. And they got Victor Bombay, the man who sung Bury the Light. Perfect. There's also Tyler Anderson. He also does a good job as well. Again, just best track of this season, and honestly I think just the best track in Death Battle. Just 10 out of 10, 100 out of 100. I'm quoting Jontron a lot today. And as well, there's the voice acting. I want to say this now, my only complaint, we don't have more voice actors. There's only 2 voice actors, but they're really good. Starting off, of course, with Eggman. Eggman is voiced by Arthur Rowan, and he's perfect. Honestly, similar to how I said Joker's voice actor Kevin Regan sounds like Sandra Mobus, Arthur is sounding almost exactly like Eggman. He sounds like different versions of Eggman, and it's so amazing. Like, he is perfect. Like, if ever Sega has to recast, I think this is the guy. This is the guy. And as for Bowser, he's voiced by Zach Watsking. And yes, that is one of Death Battle's animators, responsible for such amazing fight animations such as Ghost Rider vs. Spawn, Simon vs. Kyle, Bill vs. Discord, and why did it have to be Ragnar vs. Soul? For voicing the king of Koopas, he did a great job. Honestly speaking, 10 out of 10, I think he is a fantastic Bowser. So keep up the great work, Zach, you're doing fantastic. It is, like I said, a shame that none of the other characters like Sage, Metal, Junior, Kamek, or Infinite, but then again, would Infinite really need a voice actor? Like, these characters could have had voice actors, but I guess they didn't want to spend too much, so I'm fine with it. The voice clips they used are good enough. And as for the conclusion, I think they did a really good job explaining it. The only thing I really felt that was shoehorned in was the intelligence, because no shit Eggman was gonna win the intelligence category. Like, he's a lot more intelligent than Bowser. It kinda made sense and it's just easy to figure out. I guess at least Boomstick does feel bad for Bowser, but still. And then there's the trump cards. They say that both Bowser and Eggman even each other out, but in my opinion, they showed that Bowser had more trump cards than, well, Eggman, and seemed that they could basically overpower Eggman's, which sounds more like it would actually go in Bowser's favor, but then again, trump cards they're kind of like instant win options, so I could see basically the answer being that, yeah, it could be both. But yeah, it did show how more or less Eggman was kind of outclassed. Like, they're not wrong about how Eggman isn't really exactly great as an ally. More or less, I would say, pretty good. They explained their reason well, and just to mention it as well, there's also these alternate scenarios. These alternate scenarios were done by Moro because he had time. He had time to just do all of this, and honestly, mad lad. Not only did you animate all of this, but you went even the extra mile of adding these extra scenarios.
Oh my god, he's so goddamn cool!
And as well, I would like to see these extra alternate scenarios, but I don't want to see them too often, so once in a blue moon, if anything. I think this episode's pretty good. I mean, I already said it, I already said that this is getting the triple S rank, but like, I think that just shows how good this episode in Pacific is, like, this episode is really good. I have nothing else to say except it's a textbook example of what true passion and how amazing these guys are. I mean, just look at this animation. Have you seen it? It's that amazing. It's just that perfect. It is perfection itself. Like, Moro, he did all this on his own. And like, how did he do it? I don't know how. Like, I know how he did it, but like, it's just that good. And the voice acting, like I said, it's just that amazing. It's like, a lot of things are great, even those analyses. Those analyses are just as Among Us.
Listen, we can get the murder stench out of here by listening to some good old-fashioned video game mysteries.
Yeah, of course. Let's talk a series with just as many mysteries as it has dead civilians.
Somebody f***ing died!
You know, it's funny when you think about it, that Among Us vs. Fall Guys is better than Joker vs. Gionro, Bardock vs. Omni-man, and Kratos vs. Asura. I wanted 2 of those matchups. Okay, I mean, to be fair, I'm not saying I disliked Among Us vs. Fall Guys. I thought it was more like a funny matchup that could be interesting to see, but wouldn't miss out too much if it didn't happen. Boy, I was a fool to think that I'd be missing out on something really amazing here. I mean, hey, I even convinced Retro.
Oh, you're shitting me. Among Us. Yep. Oh, here we go.
I'm not watching this one.
You know, he wasn't gonna watch it, but like, you know, I was able to convince him. I mean, hell, I even did this little piece of art. All me, baby. All me. Anyway, but the actual episode itself. I mean, it's like I said, Among Us vs. Fall Guys, aside from Eggman vs. Bowser, it's another good episode. Like, a really, really good episode. Like, a great episode. And it's somehow better than the episode that has Joker from Persona 5 and Giorno Giovanna and the funny J.K. Simmons character. Yeah, I don't know how you do that, but you know, leave it to deathbattle to do this. And for my first compliment, there's an actual intro this time. Finally, they're gonna keep this in, and they dropped it immediately. I mean, at least they made it a bit better. Anyway, as for the actual analysis for both of them, considering that both Among Us and Fall Guys don't really have too much big lore, more specifically, they aren't that very focused on story, it was going to be easy to basically talk about them. But even so, these analyses are quite fun. I mean, come on, you can't top the fact that you can literally see Family Feud and Jim Carrey in the same analysis. Can you tell me any other analysis that does that? I bet you can't. But yeah, there's several memes that they reference in both analyses. And honestly, I just like several of these. I mean, just the way that they're just too many I could count. In fact, no, screw it. I'm just gonna show it on screen and you're going to like it. And you have to remember, the horrifying skeleton from the Fall Guys. I still remember it to this day. God, why is it official? And the Among Us cutaway. That was cute. I kinda liked it. Yeah, other than that, I also wasn't expecting them to bring in too many crossovers. Especially from Henry Stickmin. Either way, I just kinda knew the Among Us were kinda gonna lose. So you know what? I was really just looking forward to something interesting for the analysis. But what about the actual fight animation? Well, I might as well start off with the first thing. The music, because I might as well. Sussy. Okay, why? Okay. I can't believe there's a track on deathbattle called Sussy Beans. Yeah, I'm not gonna let deathbattle live this. I can't even form words for this. Why this name? For each of the deathbattle 24 tracks, I would definitely have to say the Sussy Beans. Oh god, why do I have to say it like that? The track is, okay, compared to most of the other tracks, it definitely works better with the episode. On its own, it's fine. It's okay. It's good. I mean, I like it. It's like a good track. It's kind of like those fun little tracks. It's something that you would put on while doing some obstacle course or being in space. Okay, admittedly, this feels much more Fall Guy focused rather than Among Us focused, but you know what? I don't really mind. But okay, the actual fight animation. The more surprising part is that the first bit of the fight animation, if you can call it that, it's not really a fight, it's rather just the imposters, the crewmates, and the Fall Guys just playing Among Us and Fall Guys. Honestly, not a bad idea. I honestly kind of like that they used that. Admittedly, it doesn't last too long in the Among Us section, but I'm fine with that. Once they get to the Fall Guys section, you kind of see quickly how many Fall Guys, drop, but more specifically how most of the crewmates don't survive it, as some just outright die. Which, we're getting the power level establishment. But I had to see a light blue version of an imposter just do. Yeah, I don't know, this is never gonna leave my mind forever. In storyboards, the cyan imposter, he kinda like just punched the air. Yeah, I think I prefer that over. But once we finally get to see the winner being the pink Fall Guy, we then see that the purple Fall Guy was an imposter. The red one. Kind of made sense since early on back in the analysis they said that,
oh right, there's usually 2 imposters.
Dear God!
Which, that's true. Unless you're one of the few people who wants 1 imposter or 3 imposters, but It's also interesting how you can see the purple Fall Guy kind of acting questionable. For example, at the beginning, the Fall Guy is looking around and not panicking right away, but then panics afterwards. Or how it's telling the audience to stay quiet. Or even just, maybe this is just me, but you can see how the Fall Guy, that purple Fall Guy, doesn't run right away, and it's just looking around. Again, just giving the indication to me that this isn't just a Fall Guy, this is an imposter among us. Once it's just the red guy and the pink guy, the battle actually kind of starts beginning there. Which already shows how basically the imposters kind of have to rely on other things to actually hit the Fall Guy. Which I think is a good way to establish how the imposter is powerful, but isn't able to break through the Fall Guys' defense. It even has this little part here that I just like. That gets a crack out of me every time. And this is also where the crossover stuff finally comes into play, with the first part literally being a Henry Stickmin reference. But with those guys now after the crown, it's basically a battle royale, with even some of the fallen crewmates and imposter, as well as the Fall Guys who lost, just jumping into the fight again, each of them using different abilities to do it. Like Hadouken's guarding the crown, turned into Pac-Man, including blowing up the planets. And killed some of the Fall Guys. How? And just the way the power sword comes into play, which most people could just see the Fall Guy just saying. The imposter then pulls out a pencil which draws whatever this sword is, and it leads to this nice sword clash for a bit, until those skeletons show up. A bone and whatever the hell that thing is. But after the Fall Guy sees the crown again, he just ditches the fight and just heads straight back for the crown, which the red imposter just like, fuck it, why not? I just like the fact that the imposter is just questioning it and then just screw it, why not? It then shows the two going after the crown, with the Fall Guy, doing it normally, and the red imposter just messing with its body just to get an advantage. I like that. That is really good. Whoever animated that section, I give you my applause. That looks amazing. And then, just my favorite part, which I called it and I just knew what was happening. The Fall Guy just seeing a, quote, possible future where they lose. And the imposter's like, I'll be winning with this crown. And the Fall Guy's like, crown, huh? Thanks for the tip. I'm pretty sure I made a bunch of Ben 10 fans mad. Unless it's retro, which I just think he just gets sick of me just making a funny Time Hop reference. Anyway, after, just brutally killing the imposter, the pink Fall Guy was about to question what is the meaning of life, but then the Fortnite default dance set. That's a great way to celebrate. And there's another aftermath shot, which just shows, the victory screen from Among Us with every single imposter and Fall Guys and, crewmates that are, dead, just ghost, while the only Fall Guy left is, just just finger banging the screen. You know, there's an alternative version that also showed how bloody they were. Honestly, I have to say, for the most part, this fight animation is pretty fun. That's not even mentioned there was no voice actors for this episode, which kind of makes sense. They didn't really need voice actors for this episode, really. It was just going to be a simple fight between a bunch of people well, people is actually not sure if that's the right word. A bunch of beings that are just, you know, funny alien beings. Aside from that, there is also the categories. Admittedly, I think they're fine. They're fine enough, but I don't really think they were entirely necessary. But if they were to explain their reason, that's fine. Honestly, for the most part, they just explain it fine enough. Honestly, the more impressive thing is the fact that Wiz and Boomstick lost again. Yeah, it's at least nice that Jocelyn got dubbed. She deserves it. Yeah, I don't know what else to say. I mean, this is a pretty good episode. I mean, sure, there is Bowser vs. Eggman, but nothing is going to beat that in Death Battle 24. But compared to Omni-man vs. Bardock and Joker vs. Gionro, I have less issues with this episode. I would practically say that Among Us vs. Fall Guys is just a great episode. A fun time, and I would definitely give an S rank. It's a pretty good episode, and one you should definitely watch. And that's Death Battle 24. If anything, I had to say I'm a bit disappointed that Joker vs. Gionro kind of falls short. I mean, those analyses kind of really failed me badly. I really expected a lot better from it, but I guess nothing else to be said. Omni-man vs. Bardock is pretty good still. Sure, the conclusion is questionable, but I mean, the rest of the episode's pretty good. Honestly to say though, Death Battle 24 is a great start for a new era of Death Battle. I mean, with how 2024 started with Death Battle fans seeing how maybe the show was going to be cancelled, if anything, it was a worry. I'm really happy to see that Death Battle is still living on strong. And of course, thanks to us, Death Battle fans, you know, supporting the fuck out of it because, you know, we're fans. I'm not sure how. But also just getting my friends to watch some Death Battle episodes, not only old, but also the new ones. You can see back in Blood Productions that how me and my friends start reacting a bit more to Death Battle episodes. Not all of them, but it's nice that me and the lads are actually watching them. Kinda really like it, because I felt like I was the only person talking more about Death Battle, because I probably was for a bit. But you know what's funny to me? Omni-man vs. Bardock sparked controversy. I love it. It's great that Death Battle's finally back. It just felt like we never left. I need to finish my Season 1 ranking video. Oh, what's that? Am I going to review Death Battle 25? I mean, probably in the far-off year of 2027 or 2028. Depends how things go, okay? But if you want, I can give you a quick little review. Ready? And go! Ghost Rider vs. Spawn. I was really hoping for Spawn to come back one day. Ghost Rider, I wasn't really sure. But by God, this episode showed otherwise. The analysis is so good here. It really expanded upon the characters when they last showed up on Death Battle. And not to mention, that fight animation is so good. It's like, really good. Like, I would put it in like one of the top 4 so far this year. As well, Hell's Angels. Oh, it's so good. It's really good, and they got one of the singers of Metal Gear Revengeance to help out. Oh, this is good. As for Shigaraki vs. Mahito, my first question, why wasn't this released in October? Like, why did you release it in March? What is this? Okay, jokes aside, I wasn't expecting Moro to come back quickly for another animation, but by God, he did a great job with this fight animation. Oh my God, this is really good. Any analysis? I wasn't too much into My Hero, but it really made me sympathize for Shigaraki. And as for Mahito, I mean, I was getting into Jujutsu Kaisen, but seeing how, well, he's the embodiment of humanity's worst traits, yeah, I was really hoping to see this guy kick the bucket. And by God, that fight did a good job with that. Yeah, I think this episode's like in my top 3 of Death Battle 25. Master Chief vs. Doomslayer. It was good. I mean, I definitely like Doomslayer's analysis. Master Chief, I felt, could have been a bit better because it doesn't really feel like it expands upon him too much. Definitely not talking about Cortaz, so The fight animation was really good. Thankfully, Devil Artemis, after a certain episode, he's able to get some extra help with other people such as David Fisher, and for another fight animation we'll talk about in a moment. For the most part, the fight animation's really good. I definitely more prefer the second half, which Devil Artemis animated, but the first half is also pretty good too. Simon vs. Kyle. When I first heard about this matchup, I didn't know who the hell Simon or Kyle were, but after giving a small look into Simon and Kyle, I knew this matchup was going to be great. And I even have a DVD of Gurren Lagann when I went to Scotland. I'm really enjoying the show, I'm really enjoying it. The analysis for both characters are really great as per usual, just going a lot more into the characters themselves and their abilities, and of course the fight. I was expecting it to be sprites, but I was surprised it was going to be hand-drawn, and like the fight is like the best of this year, as well the music has to be the best this year. If anything, this episode would have been my #1 choice of this year. But there was also Wily vs. Tom. Man, we've been waiting for this episode for a while, and they passed with flying colors. Analysis, and Filmation. Oh my god, the Filmation. I have to give credit to Luis and Sea Salt. They did a great job with the Filmation. I think they did fantastic. It was perfect. Miles Morales, aka Spider-Man, versus Izuku Midoriya, aka Deku. Okay, admittedly, this is, in my opinion, one of Moro's weaker Filmations. I like what he did, but I don't know, not really into it. Analysis, on the other hand, were really good. Definitely, in my opinion, better than their first ones. But at the same time, I still prefer Miles' first episode, but it's better than Deku's first episode. Leaving us with Hulk versus Godzilla. I like Hulk's analysis, it's really good, and I do like Godzilla's. But at the same time, I kind of prefer Hulk and Godzilla's previous analysis at the same time. And that's sort of the same with the Filmation. Once again, the Filmation's really done well. I think it's good, but I don't know, in my opinion, I think the Filmation's just alright. I like the idea of Hulk and Banner actually working together, which it's actually nice that Banner's part of the Filmation, unlike the last few times, he wasn't. So I think that's pretty good. And coming soon for the 200 episode, Ruby vs. Maka. I'm really excited to see what Death Battle's gonna do with this. And it's gonna be done by Luis Cruz, Del Armas, and David Fisher, who did Hulk vs. Godzilla. I'm really expecting a lot of good things here. And well, I don't know what else to say. But so far, Death Battle 25 has been...
Hey, wait a minute! You missed one!
Wait, I didn't miss... Well, you see, I kind of had to talk about Live, so I mean, I'm definitely not going to review Kratos vs. Asura. I am definitely not going to. Definitely not